We're talking about the use of control and manipulation in marketing. And I'm having a look at how Dr. Stephen Hassan's BITE model of authoritarian control can be adapted to marketing in an attempt to help you if you are a coach and feel icky or overwhelmed when you go to market yourself, that this might give you some information about what it is that is feeling gross in marketing and give you some alternatives or some ideas, some questions to ask so that you can feel better about marketing, feel more ethical, and to be able to share what you do in an authentic way with your potential customers so that you can get known and hired and have a successful business. So in the last video, we talked about behavior control, which is the B in BITE. And today we're talking about information control, and that's the I. So the BITE model is behavior, information, thought, and emotion control. So in information control, here are some ways that marketers could be using information control. And sometimes the use is appropriate. And sometimes it is actually necessary for the business, but sometimes it's manufactured and designed solely for the purpose of making more sales. And that is where you get into this unethical territory. Okay, so here are 3 ways. Filtering information. So marketers might selectively present information to customers, emphasizing only the positive aspects and downplaying or hiding negative aspects of their products or services. So, of course, we want to look like our services are really great, and hopefully they are, but filtering information is a form of information control. Creating information scarcity. So by creating a sense of urgency or scarcity, which you'll hear marketers say all the time, by limiting the availability of information, such as offering limited time offers or exclusive access to certain content, that is a form of information scarcity. Again, sometimes appropriate for your business, but sometimes designed solely for the purpose of making you more money. And when it's manufactured, it's not actually required. That's when I think your customers are going like, I'm not so sure about this. This feels a little bit weird to me. And third is controlling access to information. So marketers may require customers to provide personal information or subscribe to something in exchange for access to valuable content, thus controlling the flow of information. Sometimes this is required. Sometimes you need to know where someone is or even have them apply for something before you give them information. And sometimes it is literally just designed for you to be able to sell something to them later. So I'm going to talk about ways that we can create informed consent versus information control. And then I'm going to give you some questions to ask for yourself and your own business so that you can become more on this scale, on this continuum of influence, more on the ethical, healthy, positive side, and away from the culty, manipulative, icky marketing side. Also, I want to recommend that you check out Robert Cialdini's book, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion. It's a massive book of 6 principles of persuasion. He wrote it so that consumers could be aware of these tactics, but a lot of marketers have actually used it to create unethical influence and persuasion. So educate yourself. Look at where you are doing this and look at how it works, because the more information you have and the more educated you are about how the psychology of persuasion works, you can just have more choice about what you want to use in your own marketing. So the 6 principles of persuasion in Robert Cialdini's book are reciprocity. And you'll see that with this last example of controlling access to information. So it's like with reciprocity, when you've given someone something, we have this human nature to want to give something back. So it's like they're using this principle. You'll see it there's a book from Jeff Walker called Launch, and he uses this tactic you'll see this everywhere, but it's like you give someone a free download or a video series, and by giving them something, they feel compelled to do something back for you, whether that is buy something from you, which is obviously the goal of the marketing, is to get them to buy from you. And that's the whole concept of, deliver value on social media, just give information, give value, educate, entertain, like give, 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 give. With this principle of reciprocity, you're hoping that they return the favor by buying from you. Okay. Commitment and consistency is the second principle. Social proof, that's where you'll see case studies, testimonials. Authority. Again, authority can be manufactured completely. You'll see wellness experts that have literally no medical credentials or anything spouting off medical advice. It's like you can position yourself as an authority. You'll hear that a lot in internet marketing. It's like how to position yourself as an authority rather than actually becoming an authority and an expert in something and then legitimately having that authority. Or an abusive authority, like in a cult where they are abusing their position of power with no legitimate reason. There's no legitimate reason to abuse power. I shouldn't have said it that way. So they're abusing their power. Liking. So liking, obviously, social media. It's like also just getting someone to like you by being a likable personality. That's what influencers use. So, and different audiences like different things. So you'll appeal to different people, but it's like, get your audience to know, like, and trust you. That's a principle of persuasion. And scarcity. So scarcity, we talked about already with the information scarcity. So, and that can be totally manufactured where you'll see all the time, limited time offer, limited spots, limited this. It's like, get in before this will be the last time we ever do this. And then it's actually not true. So if it is true, if you legitimately are only offering 6 spots in your group coaching program, that is legitimate. Like you have a reason for it. You have set a limit. You're informing people of that limit. This is a different story than manufacturing scarcity by making it seem like there is a limit when there actually isn't. And you'll see that a lot with those like countdown timers. And then, you're on the sales page and it's like it runs out. And then if you go back to it, it's like it started over again. Like, oh, okay, that was just total BS. Okay, so check out Robert Cialdini's book, The Influence, the Psychology of Persuasion. And now I'm going to give you 3 ways to create informed consent. And then I'm going to give you a list of questions. Again, there's a free resource for you where you have all of this written down with these videos so you can go back and reference. So informed consent, respect customer autonomy by ensuring that individuals have access to all the necessary information to make informed decisions. So in these funnels that you'll see where you have like part 1 and you purchase it and then you go, to this second page where it's like, but wait, before I give you that thing you just bought or that you just signed up for free, what about this? And it's like an upsell. It's like they are doing that on purpose to limit the amount of information. They're not telling you, okay, when you buy this, there's 5 other steps before you actually get the thing, or the thing you just bought is only part 1 and you're still going to need more. They're limiting the amount of information. So you can change that by respecting their autonomy and giving them all the information. You can tell them, hey, this $27 thing that I have, once you buy that, you might be interested to know that I also have a $497 course or a mastermind for $5,000 or whatever it is that you have, by giving that information so they can make an informed decision from the beginning. And people will appreciate this. Like, again, you may make less sales, but you will feel good by giving the agency and the autonomy to your customer. So they're actually aware and you're aware, everyone's on the same page about what is on offer. Obtain explicit consent before collecting personal data or subscribing individuals to marketing communications. We've all opted into something and then, or not, and then gotten on an email list, like, how did I get on here? Or you signed up for one thing, but then you end up getting like 27 emails in this funnel for something else. Being very, very explicit in your consent process and actually allowing people to choose what they want to receive from you creates an opportunity for you as a business owner to create these long-term relationships with your customers. They will appreciate this in the long run. So when you're doing a promotion, having a way for people to opt out of the promotion but stay on your email list is one way you can do this. Also, if someone buys one product from you, and if you are going to then put them on your weekly newsletter, you need to get that consent from them. They need to know, not only am I agreeing to get information about this thing I purchased, but I'm also going to start getting emails every week about whatever else. It's just about being transparent and getting that consent upfront. Allow customers to easily opt out of marketing communications and respect their preferences. You'll see more and more legal ways of this being enforced. So GDPR in different countries, you have different regulations. That is because people are unhappy about how their information is being used and how it's not being respected, their preferences and their desires. And even when they're trying to get off of a list, they're still getting emails about it. There's gray areas that marketers are taking advantage of, unethical marketers are taking advantage of, where let's say you put something in your shopping cart and you haven't finished the purchase, you're going to get an email about, hey, you forgot that thing. Okay, maybe that's fair, maybe not. You get to decide as a business owner, but it's like, then they're putting you on into some funnel that's going to try and upsell you that thing again. It's like, where did I consent to that? It's like, you haven't, but you'll see these 2-step opt-ins. And it's like, that is why they're designed in these 2 steps, because step 1, you have to give your name and email before step 2, you find out how much that thing cost or whatever it is. And it's like, again, that's a way that they're limiting information to try and manipulate you to be able to make more sales. Don't do that. So handling personal privacy and data protection also belongs in this information control section. So handling consumer data with care and prioritizing data privacy and security, clearly communicating how consumer data will be used, stored, shared, and obtain consent for every purpose, complying with relevant data protection regulations and industry best practices. All of this is relevant and important in the information control or informed consent section. Also, empowerment and education. So focus on empowering consumers by providing them with valuable and educational content that helps them make informed choices, providing resources and information that allows consumers to compare products, understand their options, and make decisions that align with their needs and values. Okay. Questions to encourage information transparency and informed consent. So I'm going to give you this list of questions and you just think about how you can, this is a continuum, right? We're always going to be working towards more of the positive end. So how can I give all the information required for my client to have informed consent prior, during, and after they agree to work with me? So that during the entire process, before they purchase, before they start working with you, during, and then after. And you can think about this not just with digital marketing, but with every relationship, every transaction that you have when you're creating this buyer, consumer, business owner relationship. How can we have informed consent during the entire process? And how can you check in, to make sure that they are still wanting to work with you? And maybe you do have a way for them to stop working with you, even if they have agreed to. And you can think about what would work for you to do that, like refund policies, or, if they've committed to 6 months and then halfway through something happens, like how are you working with people so that they can continue to give you their informed consent and they don't feel trapped? Am I giving information freely when asked, or requiring my audience or potential client to jump through hoops in order to get it? There's a big discussion, and you'll see lots of varying points of view about putting discovery calls up, for instance, to get on a call with you without giving all the information to your potential client. In this model, and in order to be 100% transparent and ethical, I personally would say they need to know what at least the range or the starting point is of your cost before getting on a call with you. Otherwise, you're limiting the information. And I hate, as a consumer, I hate having to jump through hoops to get information. I was looking at applying for this school program, and they literally just turned me off to the entire school because I wrote to them and said, hey, what time are the classes going to be? Because it's in the US and I'm in Australia. Simple question. Like, just tell me what time are the courses going to be? Because I don't want to be up at 3 a.m. And if that's the deal, I might choose not to do this. They wouldn't tell me. They sent me a list of 12 questions to ask before giving me the answer. They still haven't given me the answer. I'm like, why can't you just tell me what time the classes are? This is not, it leaves me with this bad taste in my mouth because they're trying to make me jump through hoops. Now, also, as a business owner, getting people on discovery calls with you that aren't going to be able to afford your services is just a waste of your time. Sure, people have choices in how they spend their money. Maybe they, don't realize the potential value or whatever. That's fine, but give them the autonomy and the agency to make those decisions. Let them know what it costs. Like, hey, at a minimum, this is what a starting point is for working with me. It's just going to save you both the hassle of, hey, like, there's just no way I can work with you. I can't afford you. Those conversations. Okay. Am I using marketing tactics such as ascension or value ladders, upsells and downsells, or order bumps? If so, are there hidden costs, deception, or manipulation of the information on my customer's journey? I know this is being taught, and I know this is really something that works, but think about it. How many steps along the way are you trying to coerce or manipulate someone into something that they're not actually interested in, that's not right for them, they don't want it, but you're going to use these tricks to put pressure on them to get them to make impulsive purchasing decisions that later they're going to regret. So think about, instead of these ascension or value ladders, which if you're not familiar, it's like you get someone in at a free or a low price point, and then you sell them on something more, and then you sell them on something more, and then you work them up to this higher tier level, that the highest level that you have. What if instead of that, you actually looked at what they needed and what was a good fit for them, and you sell them that, you offer them that, like, instead of this whole stupid ladder. Also, upselling and downselling. Sometimes it's like you buy one thing. I don't know if you're let's say not in the coaching or online marketing world, but it's like you're at the shops and let's say you're buying a particular food and it, sits right next to this other food, and you're like, oh, I didn't even remember. Oh, this happens if you do your grocery shopping online, and it's like at the end, it's like, did you forget this? And it has like all these things that you bought before. Like, I actually like that because I'm like, oh, actually, I did forget the milk, or I did forget the bread, or whatever. And it's like, I appreciate that. That's it's either, could be an order bump or an upsell. I think there's ways to do it that don't trick your people or pressure them into buying. It's actually a kindness to remind them of something that maybe they didn't know. I had a coach that I am working with that actually, I lose track of when her thing is on sale, and I wanted to do this program, and she messaged me and she said, hey, just so you know, like, that group thing that you're interested in, it's like this week is the last week. And I'm like, oh, thank you, because I do want to join that. It feels different to me. It's actually like, hey, just so you know, versus like, this is the only time that you can buy this, and if you don't, you're going to miss out forever and you're going to regret it. It's like that's playing on people's emotions, and that's using this information control to deceive or trick them into buying something they may not even want. Okay, are your prices and pricing structure stated clearly and upfront? Again, just be transparent. Am I encouraging my customer to check out other offers before purchasing with me to make sure they are informed of all their options? Again, not everyone is right for you, and allowing them to know you know what, say you're a coach, you're a life coach, it's like this person it may not be appropriate for them to do coaching. They may need therapy, or they may need, I don't know, to go to a doctor and get a prescription, or they may need to change their diet or whatever it is. But allowing them and informing them, so which requires you to be informed of who exactly is right for you to work with, and where does that scope end and where does something else become appropriate. So are you encouraging, or even just different people that have they're just different than you, like, are you informed of other people that you can refer them to? Another way to do this is just have a list of people that, like, if they can't afford you, you have other options that you can send people to that might be more in their price range. If running a group, is there any element of policing or reporting of members happening? If so, how can I make sure it's stopped, and how can I prevent it from occurring in the future? So, a very culty tactic is policing each other, policing the other members, reporting of things to the group leader. May not happen in your coaching community, but sometimes it looks like accountability buddies, or, it feels to me as a cult survivor, there's a fine line there between checking in with someone and having accountability versus like policing, and this person is not doing what they're supposed to, or this person, I'm supposed to have this person who's helping me with this thing and they, ghosted me or whatever. It's like, how can you make sure that all of your members, if you're doing a group, feel safe and not pressured to do anything that they don't want to do? Is there an option for members of my group to not participate? Or am I or others in the group shaming or guilting them in any way? Again, they should have total choice at all times, before, during, and after, as far as how they want to participate. If they have to participate, if they don't, if you're going to require people to show up live and speak or be on camera or whatever, for whatever reason, if there is a legitimate reason, which there might be, please let them know that before they buy. Let them know the time, the dates, the technology that's required, and that they're going to have to, people that have been traumatized, it's not the easiest thing to come and be on camera and talk to people, and they may not want to participate in your program if that's required. So think about creative ways that you could not require that of people, because it's not always that they aren't committed to getting the results that you're trying to get them. It might just not be where they're at. They may not be capable of that. And any type of shaming or pressure or guilt is very culty. And I think that too many coaches use those with the premise or the idea, even they probably believe that it's true, that they are helping them to stay accountable. You need to be aware that people that have experienced trauma, it's not that they are any less desiring of the change that you're presenting them with. They may just not be capable of that in that moment. And having experienced severe trauma and starting to recover from it and starting to be able to participate again in group things, barely myself, I'm just so sensitive to that I just want to put that out there. Please make it optional for people to do anything that you are doing in your program. And if it's not optional, let them know in advance. Is it possible for someone to participate in your program, group, or course anonymously? Again, as a whistleblower and public, with a lot of public scrutiny, if I show up in a group, I get a lot of attention that I don't necessarily want. I was part of a health thing from a nutritionist, was great, but I really did not want to be in that Facebook group. And just me being in that Facebook group felt triggering and felt scary. And I didn't want that attention. It was like, I'm not a celebrity, but in certain communities, I am a public figure for whistleblowing and speaking out against a cult. And I just wanted to heal my gut. It's like, so how can you help your participants get all the information? So it's like, In this group, I had to get into the Facebook group to get some aspects of this program that, I didn't want to participate on the live calls. I didn't want to part of the thing was like post every day, pictures of what you're eating and stuff. I'm like, no way. I'm not doing this. So again, to be informed as a group coach leader of what are other alternatives. Also, being on Facebook may not be safe for people. So, could you look at other platforms? How else can you create a safe community? If sharing of vulnerable information is expected in my sessions or group coaching, how can I ensure safety of all members? In the cult that I was in, it was expected and you were rewarded for like the more vulnerable the information, the more sharing that you did, the more you're rewarded. Like you were congratulated for that. And there can be a place for sharing that is healing, but in an unsafe community where they use that information against you, they use that to maybe gaslight you or throw it back in your face after you leave, or it's a form of blackmail, or it's like used as leverage. That's coercion. Obviously, I'm assuming you're not a cult leader and that you would never do that. But if someone has come from an environment where that was done to them, sharing any kind of information in front of a group or anyone who's in a position of power, a therapist, a coach, anything, is very scary. And think about that. If you did that before and you felt like it was safe and you weren't, and that was used against you and that information was turned on you, it's going to take a lot for you to rebuild that trust. Which brings me around to my final point. Trust is something that takes time and happens slowly and should not be just given instantaneously in any circumstance. So, telling your people that this is a safe community, it doesn't work that way. They need to feel safe for their own reasons and in their own time. They need to trust you and the other members slowly, like when that happens for them. So it's not enough to just tell people, hey, this is a safe community. You can trust people here. Why? Based on what? Like, that's not how it works. So ask them questions instead about what would make this safe for you. What would help you start to trust in this situation? And don't expect them to trust you or the other members. So I think that just keep that in mind, that not everyone is a trauma survivor, but a lot of people have. There's a lot of people that have suffered trauma and in these group settings. And you may actually be, if you start implementing some of these more ethical principles, you may actually make more sales because people will feel safer with you, and it will still take time. And this is about building long-term relationships, not making quick sales. So this was the I in the bite model. And next we're going to be talking about thought control, which is the T. So we've done behavior and information, and next we will talk about thought control.